Hey there, welcome to question number 2 on the constructed response for the Unit 3 test. We're going to go through an example that's similar to the example on your actual test. The numbers are different, so it's not exactly the same. Question 2 I think is the easiest because it's pretty straightforward. We're just using formulas to find our answers. There's no extra word problem component to number 2. It gives us that a line passes through the points 1, 8, and -6. So we have two coordinates, and the first step is to find the slope of the line. Okay, so I want to go and number these. So this 1, 2, and 3. So for part 1, to find the slope of a line, we're going to use our slope formula. Remember that slope stands for m when we're using variables, and y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 is our slope formula. So I'm going to go back up and I'm going to label these points up here. My x1 and y1, and then my x2 and y2. And this just helps when I'm substituting in my values. So if I start with, I'm going to highlight just to kind of help keep things straight. If I start with my y values, I'm going to use that y2 first, so that's -6, and then my y1 is 8, so -6 minus 8. And then I'm going to do the same thing for my x's, and I can't change the color of my highlighter there, so I'm just going to circle those guys in purple here. My x2 was -6, and then my x1 was a positive 1. So since the formula is a minus, it's just going to be -1. So then I'm going to simplify my numerator and my denominator. So -6 minus 8, that gives me -14. And then in the denominator, -6 minus 1 gives me -7. When I simplify that, -14 over -7, I get a positive 2, or 2 over 1. Okay, so my slope, or my m, is just 2. Okay, so that's for that first part. I showed all my work, I showed the formula, I showed everything inside the formula, and then I showed the steps until I got to my final answer. So that's kind of what I'm looking for there. In our second part to this problem, it asks us to write the equation of the line in point-slope form. So if you go to your formula sheet from Unit 3, you would see that point-slope form. And again, you won't need to memorize these forms. They're on the EOC formula sheet. It looks like this. So y minus y1 equals m times the quantity of x minus x1. Okay, and m, remember, is my slope. We have 2 points that were already given to us. So I can pick either point. It doesn't matter which point you pick. I'm going to go ahead and pick that first point just because that's what I already have labeled as x1 and y1. And I'm just going to substitute those values in. So y minus, and then my y1 was 8. So y minus 8. My slope was 2. That's what I found from part A. I'm using that slope. And then my x1 is just 1. So x minus 1. It just asked me to write the equation in point-slope form. It is in point-slope form. I am done. There's nothing left to do. And if you wanted to, you could just show what you use. So m is 2, and my x1 and my y1, what I used was 1 and 8. Okay? And if you wanted to use the second point that was given, the -6, -6, you could have done that, and that would have been fine. So in part 3, it says to write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. Okay, so slope-intercept form, that is y equals mx plus b. Now I already have an equation here, my point-slope form. I already have that, right? I already have an equation. So I can take that equation, because the equation doesn't change, we just transform it to a different form. So basically all I have to do is take this equation here, and we just have to solve it. for y. So I'm getting y all by itself, and when I do that, I will have put it in slope-intercept form, because in slope-intercept form, we solve for y. So when I look here at this equation, I've got y minus 8 equals 2 times the quantity of x minus 1. Well, I see that I have this set of parentheses here. I need to go ahead and address that. So I'm going to solve for, or distribute that 2 out front. That way I can get rid of those parentheses. So when I do that, 2 times x is just 2x, and then 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. So I've simplified the right side of my equation, and now I just have y minus 8 on the left. So to get y by itself, again, we're trying to get y isolated or all alone. Since I have y minus 8 to undo the subtraction, we can add 8 to both sides. And since I don't have any room below, I'm going to move it over here. So I would be left with y, because those cancel, equals 2x plus 6, because negative 2 minus 8 gives me positive 6. Notice I've solved for y. I'm in slope-intercept form. This is it. We're done. I found the slope using the slope formula. I found the point slope form using the point slope form. I plugged in my first point, my x1 and y1. I plugged in my slope. And then I just took that form and I solved it for y to convert it into slope-intercept form. And that's it. Hopefully that helps you complete question number 2 on your constructed response.